All right, folks, so today we're going to be building a travel accessory store from scratch using Shopify. Even if travel gear isn't exactly what you're making your store for, don't worry, you can still follow along and use the same steps to build whatever kind of store you've got in mind.
Now, if you don't have a Shopify trial yet, I've dropped a link in the description. You'll get a 3-day free trial, and after that, it's just $1 a month for the first 6 months.
All right, so with that being said, let's dive in. All right, so when you guys first log into Shopify, you're gonna find yourself at the dashboard. Now, I understand this is a lot of information that you don't understand right now, but by the end of the video, you're gonna know what this stuff is all about. Now, before we go ahead and start designing our store, I wanna do the nitty-gritty first, the heavy lifting, so that later on we can just customize our site without any interruptions. So, that being said, I want you guys to go to the left-hand side over here where it says products, and then click on the add products button right here. Okay, so the first thing that we have here is the title, so that's easy enough to write down. Underneath this is the description. Now, if you don't have a description for your item or you're having trouble coming up with one, you can go to the generate text option right here and put keywords for your product. You can change the tone as well from any of these six presets. Yes, I can count 6 presets, and you can have a custom tone if you want to play around with that. And if you're ready, click on generate. If you don't like what it generated, you can generate again and add more keywords, so on and so forth. In this case, we'll keep it. Down below is the media. So I'll just take my photo from my folder and place it right there. Down below in pricing, we have the regular pricing. And the reason why I say regular pricing, because what we have at the compare price is basically if you have a discount. So you can put the discounted price on the right side, and then on your site, it would show as a discounted item. Now for the inventory, yeah, of course, input your stock. You don't want to make your life even harder. And where it says continue selling when out of stock, basically what this means is that you will keep accepting orders if you check mark this box, even if you don't have an item in stock, right? Now, what I would highly recommend to you guys is to consider whether you can fulfill those orders in an ample amount of time. If you can't, uncheck this box because it's better to lose sales than to lose orders, right? That's just kind of my philosophy. So take that into consideration. Now, where we have variants, this is very neat because what Shopify's AI does is it takes a look at your photo, your title, and your description, and then it generates these category meta fields, which are basically variants describing your item. And so why this is helpful is we can just use these meta fields and input things like color. We have the connectivity, technology, stuff of that nature. Now, if you want to add your own variants that are different from the category meta fields, you can add another option and go down to create custom option. And for example, if you had a limited edition book, so you have edition and then down below limited, and you can add other values beneath that if you'd like. But yeah, that's pretty much the long and the short of it. I wanted to explain exactly what you guys needed to know to just get your items on your store. Now there's other things such as SEO listings and so on and so forth, but I don't want to confuse you guys right now. All you need to know is what I just explained. There's one more thing that I want to mention before we move on to collections, and that is your product organization. So basically, when we talk about collections, you'll see something that allows us to apply or assign a tag to our item, right? So basically right here, we have a tag, and if we wanted to assign all of our headphones into the headphones or earbuds collection, we can just put, okay, this is our earbuds tag. However, it's funny because you can do the same thing with collections. You set up a collection like homepage here, and you just check off this box and it's immediately going to go to the homepage collection. So I hope that wasn't confusing at all. Basically, you can just set up a collection, and when you're adding your products, you can just send it to that collection right away without having to figure out what kind of tag you want for this product. So again, I'm pretty sure that you guys will figure it out as we add our collections, and I give you a little more information as to what I'm talking about there. But I just wanted to give you a little context for when I go into collections and describe what I will talk about in a moment. Now, what I have to do is add the rest of my products, and then we'll move on to that. Now I want you guys to go under the products tab and click on collections. And once you're there, just go to create collection. So on this page, the first thing we have is the title. All right, easy enough. Now down below, you don't need to have a description if you don't want it, totally optional. On the right, you can drag media and have a thumbnail for this. But what I really want to talk to you guys about, and what I was rambling on about a moment ago, is the collection types. So you can manually add items to your collections, or you can do it the quote unquote smart way. So like I said, you have a tag and it's equal to, let's say, headphones, or in this case, luggage and organization. So if I had another piece of luggage, then I put, and that tag is equal to this collection, right? So it's kind of complicated for no reason. And that's why I like to just have a collection. And as I'm adding products, I just directly assign it through the product page or the product editor page. So in this case, what we'll do is we'll manually add our stuff. So to do so, just click on browse, and I'm going to, we have 5 of them right here. Easy enough. You could also search for your products up here, which was what I was going to do. But nevertheless, add all of your products. And I have one more. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I forget how many of these luggage carriers I added. Okay, so we'll add all of them there just by going down to add. And that's pretty much it. So I have to add the other 2 collections, and then we'll move on to our menus. So let's make our way down to the content tab and click on menus. So we have 2 menus, the main and footer menu. First off, I'm going to show you how to customize your main menu, and the same rules apply to the footer, but there's an extra step that we have to take. So let's focus on the main menu right now. So let's go down to add menu item and go over here to this search bar and find our collections. And from here, all we simply have to do is click on the collection we want and then repeat that process a couple of times. So let me do that real quickly. So luggage, on the go gear, and then lastly should be the travel comfort. Now, the neat thing about this is that we can rearrange our menu just by grabbing these 6 dots. So I'm gonna keep the catalog first, have contact last, and let's see what we have. We have luggage, on the go, travel comfort. I think that's fine. Yeah, we'll just keep it as is. But yeah, so basically, whenever you have something you want to add to your menu, just repeat this process and you're good to go. Now, for our footer, we have to go down to settings, because in the footer, you typically add things like policies, contact information, basically the stuff that you don't really feel the need to add in your main menu. The leftovers, okay? But in this case, all I'm going to show you guys how to do is add policies, because we already understand the process of adding things to your menu, and you can do that process later on. Now, for your policies, we have to go to settings. We'll come back here later on in the video because it's crucial. And then go down to the bottom here where it says policies. So with the policies, I believe out of the 6, 4 of them have templates that you can use. So if we click on this one, you'll see that up here, we can insert a template. Now, you have to input your own information. This is simply a template. Do not rely on this to be your policy for whatever the case is. So once you're done, publish it, but make sure that you input your own information. And so you have to just place your own stuff into these little text boxes. And then once you're done that process, we go back to our footer. Now, so you guys don't have to watch me add every single template into the policies, I'll do that quickly and then I'll show you what I have in mind. So here we go. Head over to your footer menu. And this time, instead of looking for your collections, what we're going to look for are our policies, which are at the bottom here. And then you subsequently click on them and repeat the process of adding the rest of your policies. All right, so we covered our menus, our products, our collections, and the policies. So now we can go into the less, I don't know if it's intensive stuff, but more creative side of this tutorial, okay? So what I want you to do, guys, is go down to the online store tab and immediately make your way down to the bottom of the page and find the Visit Theme Store button. So basically in a theme store, you can find naturally all your themes. You can sift through the prices, the industries that you're going for, and the catalog sizes. Now, what I like to do with this is I can actually just select any random theme. For example, let's go with the Horizon, and we can try the theme immediately without having to permanently use it. All right. So let's take a look at the demo store. So basically, before you try it, you can take a look at the store in a practical setting. You click on one of the items, you can see the variants, how it's gonna look, and you can settle on it or choose a different one. If you do choose to go with it, then you guys can go to the top right and click on Try Theme, at which point it's just going to download to your Shopify dashboard. So once it's done downloading, you can find it under your theme library. So basically, like I was saying, you can customize it. Now, since we have all of our products already listed, you'll see what it looks like with our products. And so you can continue to customize it, change the background, the text, so on and so forth. And it's really nice. It's a really neat feature that Shopify provides. Now, if you're satisfied with it, you can publish it and it will replace the default theme that we have here. However, if you don't want to use it, go to these three dots, click on remove, and get rid of it. And we are going to get rid of it because I'm going to use the Dawn theme, the default theme, just so all of us can start on the same page. But regardless of which theme you use, you can still follow along. But I just wanted to have a baseline for all of us. Now, what I want you guys to do is to right click on customize and open this link in a new tab, and let's make our way over to the editor. All right, so here is the editor. Right here on the left-hand side, we have the structure of the store. So the headers up top, the template is the content we're going to place. This is where we're going to spend most of our time. And then we have our footer at the absolute bottom. Now, yeah, you can see the policies that we added. So the changes we made are applied. And then at the top of the page, our main menu has also updated. Now, on the right side here, you can view your site in a mobile layout. However, we're not going to be editing this site in the mobile layout because, well, whatever changes I make in the desktop version is going to apply to the mobile version of the site. So just so you guys know. And then if you want to see a full screen version of your store, which is a more or less, it gives you an idea of what the customer is going to see. So this right here is a preview. This gives you a better idea of what your site looks like to the public. However, there is a better way to see what it's going to look like without all the Shopify clutter here in the editor. And for that, we go to the top left on these three dots, click on view. And this is the best possible view of your site without you actually, being a customer yourself. So we covered the most important, well, not most important bits, but the surface level things that you guys need to know so that we're on the same page, because I'm going to be shifting between these tabs every now and then. On the left-hand side, I just want you guys to know where I'm adding things when I'm talking about it. Another cool thing about Shopify is that, like we did with the menus, we can drag around our sections like this and place them above and below. However, we don't really have too many sections, so I don't think I can make too much of a change. Oh, there we go. So you see the featured products and then the banner just below that. So now that we covered those things, we can get into editing. So the first thing I want to customize is the header. So I'm going to change the logo and reposition it entirely. So for that, let's go to the left-hand side and click on theme settings. So for the logo, to add your own, just click on select and it will take you to the Shopify library. Now, if you're wondering, what are these photos? These are just pictures I transferred over into Shopify. Behind the scenes, it's very easy. Just take your pictures from your folder and then plop it into this. Now let's find the logo. Here we go. This is my logo. Once you've chosen your photo, go down to done. Now here we can only change the width of the logo, which really doesn't do too much for us. So what I want to do is click on the header, and this is how you can change the position of the logo. So right now it's middle left. You have 4 options. I'm going to place it top center. However, I don't like how there's so much space in the header. It's unnecessary. So for that, let's go down to the bottom right here and where it says padding. And I'm just going to limit the amount of padding there is at the top, make it as small as possible. So that looks a lot better. Now, when you're scrolling down through a site and the menu follows you, or sometimes it stays at the top, it's tough to find a good balance for that. But what I typically like to do is for the menu to appear when I'm scrolling up. It makes it a lot easier. So for that, we have the on scroll up option. However, if you don't want it to show up at all or always be there, or show up but reduce the size of the logo, you have that option, but I'm going to keep it as is. So that's the logo. We can also change the colors. So right here we have 2 options. On some of the other sections, we're going to have only 1 option for what we can change. For example, for the banner image down here, we're going to have 1 of these color options. So basically, you saw that over here we had the colors right underneath the logo. Now here you have these schemes that come default with Shopify, any Shopify template. Now what you can do is click on a scheme and change the color palette by selecting one of these tabs here. and then adding your own color. Now, this isn't exactly always necessary because what you can do basically is, let me just click on the logo or the header again. What you can do is go into the color schemes down here and edit them from within. So we click on edit, and then we can change the color scheme like this. Now, I'm not going to change the colors until I'm done adding all the content on my store, so I have an idea of what it's going to look like, but that's basically a very simple rundown of how the colors work and how to add them. Then we have the typography. So the typography is another word for the font on your site. Now we have our heading font, which is this text right here, for example, or this text right here. And then the body text is anything smaller than that. So to change your text, what you do is click on the fonts and you select any of the ones that are listed here. Now I'll choose April Fat Face to give you an idea because it's the most noticeable one. So you'll see how the font has changed right here and the font has changed right here. Now to make sure you save these changes, click on select down here because otherwise it's not going to save because it will not. For whatever reason, Shopify decided that was a great idea, but we work with what we got. And then you can do the same thing for the font on the body text. I'll choose April Fat Face once more so you get the idea to really hammer it home. And you see down here, April Fat Face, April Fat Face. Okay, I feel like I'm insulting April at this point. And so yeah, those are the 3 important things that we need to know from the theme settings. Now we can customize the banner image. So to customize a section on your site like we did with the header, all you do is click on it. And in this case, let's go to the library again on image 1 and scroll down to find the photo that I want. So here it is, apply it. Then on the left-hand side, we have a couple of options. So we can change the height of this. Personally, it's a little too large, so I'll make it medium. Down below in the animation, I don't always have animation on a photo, but when it comes to a banner image, I like it because it's not a static photo and it brings some life to when someone visits. The content right here is at the bottom. So if we click on position, we can change the position of the content itself naturally, and we can place it really anywhere on the screen here. So I'll place it middle center. And then that is really all I wanted to cover when it comes to the settings for the banner image. Now to change the text, we click on the text box, and then I'll just go to my clipboard and paste my little thing here. Now down below we have a button. So when it comes to buttons, there's also another set of options for that by clicking on it. Now you can add a second button by just typing in another title. So let's just write button so I can show you. And then it's going to appear. If you want to get rid of it, just clear that up. Now for this button, it is linked and assigned to all of our products. So to our entire catalog. Now, if we wanted to assign this to a specific section or a specific collection, product, whatever the case is, you go to link over here, and it's very much like what we did with the menus. We just choose one of these options, collections, and then we reassign that link to something else. So it's not too complicated. Next up, I want you guys to scroll down to our featured products. I didn't really address this because I was caught up with everything else, but as we were adding our products, it slowly updated to our homepage. So this is great. Now let's click on this as well. Now in the top left, we have the collection. So right now it's showing our catalog, our entire catalog. If you wanted to choose a different collection to be listed here, you click on products, replace, and then choose any of the collections. We can also create another collection, but in this case, we'll leave it as is. Down below, you increase the product count. You can change the title up here, and then we have the columns. So maximum is 6, I believe. So that's something to consider. However, what I typically like to do is I want to make a carousel. And what the carousel does is basically save you all that space, but it still keeps the same amount of products on your store. So it's kind of like a win-win in that case. Now, this is down to personal taste. A lot of this designing stuff is down to personal taste, of course. But the reason why I like to do this is so that I can add more information to my homepage without having to sort of have my featured product section take up a lot of real estate, so to speak. Now, another thing that I like to do when I have a carousel is to have my products be full width, because if you go to full screen over here, and we just go back to the first section here, you'll see that there's all this empty space on the left-hand side. And, as we scroll to the right, it's better, it takes up all that space, but I don't want it there in the first place. So what we'll do is click on full width products. And then when we go back to full screen, you'll see that that empty space has been taken up. So it looks a lot better. It was kind of awkward beforehand, and I really don't fancy that. Look at me speaking like I'm British. So that's basically everything in for the featured collection. You can play around with that and have some variety, but that is really the way that I like to go about things. Now down below, we're going to add a section. However, we're going to move that section above because what we're going to have is a collection list. And so what this does is allows us to add our collections, not just our featured products. Now to add your collections to this, we click on the thumbnail, go to the top left, select, and then choose which ones we want to add. So we'll just add every single collection because we didn't just waste our time including those. So I'll do the 3 here. Now you'll notice how we only have 3 columns, and you might be wondering, what if I have more columns? What if I want to have like 6 or something like that? Well, you're going to have to improvise, but let me save this really quickly. So basically what you do is you click on this section once more. Where did it go? There we go. You click on this section, and then on the left-hand side, it's going to say 3 columns. You can add up to 6. However, you see there's this empty space. It doesn't give you more options to throw things in there. So what you have to do is go back to our little structure section here and duplicate these. So you can just right-click, duplicate, and then, add the rest that you want. Now you say, well, they're just duplicating the same collection. Well, for that, click on the thumbnail and then choose the other collections you want to add, and then problem solved. Okay, now I'm going to keep the 3 columns just for my site, but I wanted to let you guys know that it's something you can do. And now let's just move the collection list above the featured collection like I was saying. So you see how they replaced one another. So let me give you guys the game plan of what I'm planning here and why. So creating a website isn't just like putting things together and hoping that people like it. Rather, you have to have somewhat of a reason for why you're putting things there, and it has to be tactical. So the reason why I'm doing this is because when a customer views my homepage, they're going to see this banner image, which is nice and all. However, that's not going to grab them immediately. So they go down here and they're like, okay, we have a couple of different collections here. And then they see the featured products. So what I'm going to add is I'm going to add another banner image under this, and it's going to show 2 pictures instead of 1. And I'm going to be promoting the earbuds, headphones that I have, and then that's going to take them to that particular collection. All right. And underneath that, I'm going to have 2 more sections titled the image with text. So on the left-hand side, I'm going to put a photo, and on the right, it's going to be some text just describing a particular product. And then I'm going to inverse that and have the text on the left and the image on the right. So the reason for this is to give more context and to give the customer an idea of what we have on the store and what they might be interested in. And beneath all of that, we have the featured products. So if they still aren't convinced, they can sift and scroll through all of the products we have here. And I just clicked on something. So let me just go back go to the top here. And so when they look through our products, they're going to be either, curious, or they're going to back out. Now, the thing that I have is I've set up perfectly the system for them to scroll through the site and see that we have a bunch of things to offer. And it's kind of hard not to be curious about what other things we have available. So that's the idea. And I wanted to let you guys know why I'm doing these things and that it's not just a random assortment of things. So basically, you want to give just enough information about what you have in store, but you don't want to overwhelm the customer with pictures and information. You want to guide them through your homepage, and then, the actual site will do the rest by promoting items and suggesting things, so on and so forth. So let's go and start the first thing that I wanted to do. Right here, we're going to add another section, and it's going to be, yes, of course, the image banner. First off, let's get rid of this second button label, and I already showed you guys how to do this by just removing the second label entirely. We're going to keep the container, just change the color, but let's first add our photos. So the first one is going to be this one, and the second one is going to be the earbuds. So for the height, we're going to make it small actually, and then no animation. And let's go down here to the color scheme and choose color scheme 5. And I do want to make the blue a little fainter. Now this is going to be a bit of a tricky operation because as soon as we change any color on Shopify, it's going to refresh the page. So let's make sure we get it right the first time. That's fine. And now let's change the color of the text actually. So it's white. Actually, no, the text is fine. Rather the text in the boxes. So I already have my handy dandy clipboard ready to go. So we're gonna paste the first one and paste the second one as well. Check out that one. And here we're gonna link a collection to this button. Just like I showed you guys earlier on, go down to the link, find what you want to assign this to, and it's gonna be on the go gear. And then you'll notice how the button actually activates or goes white. And it takes us to that collection, which is fantastic. Now, I also just want to do one more thing to the button, and that is to change the label. So let's just say see more. And there we go. We covered that section. So underneath this, let's add those two image with text sections. So like I mentioned, one of them is going to be on the left and the other is going to be on the right. I'll just duplicate these for simplicity's sake. So to transfer this photo over to the right, just click on it and then go to placement down here and then place the image second. And for this image, let's choose one of these luggage carriers. So it'll be this one. And let me just make the photo large. Now, you know, throughout the video, I've been making my photos relatively small, but in this case, I want to put it on full display. So we'll make it large. And then for the heading, go back to our clipboard, paste that, and then again, clipboard and paste the rest. Now, actually, this is a little too large. So let's make it a little smaller because it's going to be obnoxiously large. So let's go to medium. All right, that looks a lot better. And so for the button, I'm going to find this particular item by going to products, and it's called the iFly. So let's, I'm not typing anything, iFly, and here it is. And now we've linked this button to this product page. And let's go here, more, see more. All right. And then I'm going to repeat that process for this section as well, and we'll move on. At the start of the video, I mentioned that I wasn't going to add colors until I added the rest of my content. So I added all my content, as you can see here. I think you guys get the point of what you can do and how you can use these tools. The rest is up to you. Now, I'm going to spice this up by adding some color. So for the header, we're going to go with a blue color generally across the store. So the color scheme is going to be scheme 5, and we're going to do the same thing for the footer and just keep it consistent. Now, there's going to be a little bit of a difference for these two sections. So let me show you how this works. Now, I was talking about containers earlier on. I didn't go into too much depth, but right here, when we click on this section and go to the color schemes, we have the color scheme and then the container color scheme. So the container color scheme is the color of the content within. It's not going to affect the photo, but it is going to affect this text side. And then the first color scheme is for the outline here. So what I'm going to do for the first one is go scheme 2, just change it from being white. It's going to be more gray, but still in line with the overall theme. And then the second one is going to be scheme 5. And you see what I mean. So it's gray, white, blue, white. Everything's easy to read. And we're going to do the same thing over here. Color scheme 2. Scheme 5, and you can get pretty creative with this, so try some variations out and see what suits you. And so those are the only sections I really want to add colors to. So with the heavy lifting and, let's say, artistic side done, all right, we'll put it that way. Now we can go into the nitty-gritty, that is the settings now. So for that, let's make our way back to this page, and let me just open up the online store tab, because I'm going to explain something right after I talk about the settings. But right now, just go to settings down here. Now, I want you guys to go down to payments. So here, when you subscribe to Shopify payments, you will be able to use them as a provider, as a payment provider. So basically, all you have to do is essentially send them your bank information, have them validate it, make sure that it's credible. And if everything is okay, they're going to get back to you and let you know, okay, you're good to go. You can start receiving orders. Now, I can't show you that process myself because I already have my bank information with my own store, but believe me that It's very simple to do. You just fill out the fields, and then once you're done, it'll go to them and you'll get confirmation on their decision either way. The toughest part is just waiting. Following that, let's make our way down to shipping and delivery and select the first option. So right now we have 2 shipping zones set up, the domestic zone and then the international, which includes all of these countries. Now, what I want you to do is to remove this shipping zone by going to these 3 dots and clicking on delete. Because if you want to set up a shipping zone that includes those countries or a country from within that list, then it's going to conflict with the default in shipping rates. So I recommend doing that. If your country isn't listed in that list, then you're fine. You can still do the process that I'm about to show you, but I just wanted to give that bit of context. So to add more markets, let's go down to go to markets right here and then head over to the top right to create market. First, give it a name. So we'll call it USA. Go to add condition. And this basically means look up your country. So let's go with United States. United States, go to done. And then just make sure you've saved everything. And now let's go back to settings and head down to shipping and delivery once more and back up here. So it appears that it didn't save our changes. So let me remove this once more so we don't have any issues because I didn't save it right. Rookie mistake. How could I have possibly done that? So now let's go to add shipping zone and click on North America or United States. In this case, just go United States and immediately it's gonna, assign both to 1. Now, the cool thing about Shopify is that we can choose where we want to ship to within that particular country. So there's all of these states, and say you want to ship to Alaska, Delaware, Hawaii, and Iowa, for example. Once you've decided, make sure that you name it. So we're going to call this test. Go down to done. And it says no rates are set up. So what we do is go to add rate down here, and you can ignore all of this information. To set your rate, actually, all you have to do is go down here and input your price and say we have a $2 rate. We'll leave it at $2. And following that, click on done. You have to name it. What do I know? What do I know? Everything has to be named. Test rate. It's kind of arbitrary for the purposes of this tutorial, but you get the idea. So just put in your price down here and naturally name it now. And then after you're done with that, click on done. Okay. So following that, make sure you save, and now you've set up a new shipping zone and shipping rate. Now I want you guys to go down to the domains tab right here, because it's very important to have a professional, valid domain name if you're planning on selling stuff. So our current domain name is whatever this is up here, and then our top level domain, which is like .com, .org, .whatever. This is the one that we have right now, WPQ, so on and so forth. Now we can have our own domain name, so we can change our domain name by clicking on change to a new myshopify.com domain. However, it doesn't quite look professional to have .myshopify.com. So I recommend buying a new domain. So right here, you would, let's have a placeholder name. So we'd have random name. And once you input your name, then it's going to refresh and look for any top level domains that are available tied to that name. And right here, you see we have .info, .co, .us, so on and so forth. So maybe .com, .net might not be available, but these are a lot better than having the Shopify default top level domain name. So that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in relation to the settings. Now, make your way back to the online store tab, okay? Because before you can actually publish your store, you have to purchase a plan. Otherwise, it's not gonna let you, because what it says right here is that we have a password that is protecting our site. And to remove that password, you need to, again, buy a plan. And so once you do buy a plan, you come back to the online store tab and go right here, and it's going to say remove password in this area. And once you do remove the password, your store is live for the world to see. And that just about wraps up today's video, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any further questions for me, do not hesitate to leave them in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing to the channel, and don't forget about that Shopify deal in the description below. At any rate though, thank you all so much for watching as always, and until next time, make sure to take care.